Orange Crush and Aquatech. They made hot tubs there. And frankly, all the years I was there, they never took the sign down. It was still Aquatech. But we were a cheap-looking show.
Speak for yourself, honey.
It looked expensive. They put all the money on this. I thought it looked expensive.
Well, let me finish what I was
In real life, it looked horrible. Look at $1.99.
When you were there, it
This
looked
was
like $1.98.
these were the walls.
We were cheap, but we were good. All right, here, as opposed to, I think, an episode of Voyager or DS9, we were less than half the price of that. But here's the thing, we had writing, they didn't.
Yeah. And really good acting.
That's what I think made up for it, because you know what, we were the little space station that could. We had John Flynn, who lit and photographed that thing and gave it some feeling, gave it depth, tone, mood, did he not? We had great writing, Mr. Straczynski and several others.
Neil Gaiman.
We had great directors, great actors. That's what you have. You know, Paramount, they would have like $2 million an episode. What was it? I watched those shows, they were brighter looking. They had more lighting. That's all.
We were making them for $750.
We were making them $750, they were almost $2 million.
And they're $2 million now.
So tell me, why?
Well, that's because their actors actually got paid.
Okay,
I'm not bitter.
No. Next. Oh, sorry.
You're the one.
Babylon 5, to a large extent, I think, turned science fiction genre a little bit darker and dealt with a lot more difficult issues than a lot of them before. I'm just curious, now that you've been through that and the current series, I mean, if you look at, you mentioned Battlestar Galactica, that was as dark as I've ever seen. And you could argue that the new Star Trek reboot, we got Kirk with an attitude, you know, bad boy Kirk now instead of good boy Kirk. Just your comments on that.
I love the new movie.
You know, just as far as the genre and everything is going, or are you guys really still interested in it, or, you know?
Just again?
No, just the darkness of it. You know, you're
Well, I
really
just think it reflects myself. I just think it's reflecting the times that we're in. Television and film reflect the times. And we've been through some very dark times.
And television is a very young medium, actually, you know, if you think about it. It's been, 1948, 49, right? So, as opposed to like theater or music or a lot of other things, and shows just build on each other, and they just naturally get better at building series on what the audience wants and deepen more facets, more interesting ways to express things in more complicated, more interesting ways. One show learns from the next.
We have the two gentlemen from the original Battlestar Galactica here this weekend. What a different show that was to the one that was just recently. It did, I mean, in name only, that's about it. It didn't resemble it at all. In fact, I think that the current one looked much more like Babylon 5. So we had no influence there.
And I'll have a cheeseburger.
I did get my fries.
All right. Hold on a second. I got another question coming.
Yes, sir.
My question is for Peter. One of my favorite characters in the show is Londo. The reason I love him so much is that his character evolves so much over the show. Kind of starts off as someone who seems bitter and then becomes someone who seems monstrous, and then someone in the end who's sympathetic. And I'm curious how you feel about the character's evolution through the series. If that ever presented you with any difficulties in acting the character?
Did they ever present me with one?
Any sort of difficulties in having to evolve your
I've
acting
always
style?
said, that's just good writing. The character changes and grows. It's a lot better if you're, in a television series, and I've done a number of them too, if you're not playing the good doctor, or the nice neighbor, or the mean, the villain. Joe was able to take characters and start them in one place, just like you and I in our lives, and we change. In 5 years, I'm a different person. In 7 years, I'm a different person. So Londo just moved around, and that made it more interesting for me, and just made it better for me. Never harder, easier actually. I was just as surprised as you are. I would open the script and think, that's what we're going to do this month. Okay, great. That's JMS. That's good writing.
Yeah, it's like opening the script.
Tracy was wondering if there were people who maybe couldn't get up to the mic over the years that had a question. Anybody?
Okay?
That's no worry.
No, my only complaint ever on a script, I went to Joe because, for the hologram scene, I had a line that got cut, where I said, why would anyone want to do this virtually when there's a whole world out there? And I said, I don't feel comfortable saying that because not everybody can do everything.
This may be a little bit of a sore spot, but I wanted to bring up the last movie that went to DVD, the Babylon 5 movie. And I know there was cast members that passed away, and it really seemed like you guys did, or the writers did not get to do anything they really wanted to do, and they still had a product they had to make. I just wanted your thoughts.
Ask again.
It seemed like either the passing away of like Andreas and a lot of other cast members that it hindered the final product of the movie, and you had to adjust to it.
Well, I thought we dealt with their characters, their power, wherever they were. You know, it's very hard to have 3 cast members die. I don't know how you recover from it, story-wise. You know, I thought Joe tried to sensitively refer to the characters, not the people, the characters. Those characters will never die, and they were off somewhere. You know, beyond the rim. I think, and that was my job to set that up, is to say that, and do it with the, I'm going to miss them, but they're off having wonderful adventures. That's the way we tried to look at it. We didn't want to go have them actually die.
Much nicer
It's
send
hard
off
to
than you
get.
gave Ivanova.
Talk about your sore spots. But it was an idea that didn't work. Okay, we tried.
Don't take it personally.
I do. No. It's
Jerk, go back home.
Walk away. Yeah.
Walk away. The tears,
Actually, Warner Brothers wanted to continue, but they didn't want to pay any money for it to make it, give it any kind of a budget.
Sounds like vanity publishing.
No, I'm serious, and I think Mr. Straczynski, and I don't think I'm out of step saying this, he just said, no, I can't do it for this kind of money. We did that one, the first one, to show Warner Brothers that we could do it for that he could do it. But he said after that, I'm not going to continually do it for that cheap. It was
Give them
cheap.
an inch and they take a mile.
Yeah, exactly.
You
They
know
did
what I
one,
mean?
and so their enthusiasm was over.
Peter, I have a question for you.